Hi everyone, my name is Maria and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today my guest is a specialist in numerology, guys. This is something completely different to what we used to do here in the studio because all of my specialists, they were in something tangible. And here today, numerology is either it's a science or it's not a science. We will figure it out today. Hi Jess, really glad to have you here. Could you please tell us what is numerology? So whether it's a science and why should we believe it?
Well, numerology is really a belief that every number has an energy. So we use it as a tool to really understand ourselves, and we see patterns that give us answers into all aspects of our life. So, for example, based on your birthday and your name, we can analyze what kind of personality you have, what kind of strengths, weaknesses you have. We can look at things like your energy, where that comes from. We can see what the ancestral connection is, so why you've come here and how you're helping your ancestry and your family. We can also look at things like your money. People always ask me, I've been at my job for such a long time, I don't know how to make more money. Numerology helps you understand, are you in the right industry? Are you on the right path? Maybe there's a few tweaks you need to do to open up more of your money. So it shows you your career path, essentially. Then we also have a whole area of relationships, so we can look at certain patterns in relationships that you have. We can see exactly what kind of partner you need based on your numbers. We also see what kind of lessons you have to learn when you are in a partnership or in a relationship or in a friendship or at work. And then, of course, there's the big thing of health. So people with health issues, they can get answers how to improve their health and really what to avoid in order to be healthy for a long period of time.
And when you say numbers, doesn't mean that actually math is behind it.
Well, each number, as I say, it holds a certain energy. So if we use an example, for you were born on the 29th. So how we calculate that, it's you're a 2. The 9 plus 2 is 11, and then we get it down to a 2. Mm-hmm. What that tells me is you're a people's person. So let's say we're sitting here. You may know things about me that I don't even know. You feel people. You walk
That's true, actually.
You just know. So in life, you would be great at working with people. And then if we take an example of someone who's a 1, he or she is a leader. They are not someone who will sit with you and talk about your feelings and so on. They can be quite dismissive. They want people to follow them, right?
And listen to them, I guess.
Exactly. So just this is a very little example about the day someone's born. It gives a certain energy within the number that gives you certain characteristics.
So it doesn't mean that, for example, if we're talking about politics, so if the person is managing the country or managing some department of the country, the person should have some numbers in their birthday to be successful in leading the country or department or something like that.
Absolutely. So what usually happens is, some people may say, I want to become a politician, right? And all their numbers are to do with creativity and being, creating art and things like that. They just will never be able to become that successful politician because the energies that are given to them by birth aren't present, right?
It's just a
different nature.
Right.
Exactly. And if you want, we can go back to your birthday had a peak
please.
of you. And for example, the reason you're doing this podcast and it's working well for you is because the majority of your energies are to do with your voice, right? And even though you were born as a 2 and you're all about people and working with people, you also have a specific code that says you have that leadership power within you, right? So when we look at what's called the matrix, so your birthday creates a matrix, within all of that collection of numbers, I then can understand what kind of strengths you have and then what kind of career path is most suitable for you.
Brilliant. So I think this is absolutely correct about me because I absolutely love doing the podcast. And what I also noticed that, for example, on Instagram page, when I'm posting something with my voice, the engagement is so much better rather than just I'm posting a random video with just pictures and that's some nice, beautiful scenery. But when there is voice on it, it's so much better. And when there is face and voice, it's even better.
Even better. That's the key of numerology. It's such a beautiful tool to use because when you understand what your energies are, you have a choice. You either live them in the positive, as it's called, or the negative. And let's say you were working in an office behind a computer and you had no meetings, you didn't use your voice, you would slowly start to decay. You wouldn't be happy.
Totally.
You would feel like this isn't what you're meant to be doing. But the moment you choose to step into the positive and you activate your voice, you start working tete-a-tete with some people, that becomes your superpower. And then everything else just is it's unstoppable for you.
This is amazing what you were saying, because when I work in the office, I absolutely hate the days when I'm just sitting behind the laptop and doing some admin work. This is not me. And when I have conversation, meetings, like calls, this is where I flourish, where I feel comfortable. This is where I lead people, and I just feel that this is me.
Yeah.
But when I'm just behind the computer, it's like, oh my God, I'm wasting my day. Why am I here?
Yeah, that's so interesting, because in your money triangle, for example, in your career, there are energies that are responsible for this analytical mind. So you'd be good at things like IT or figuring out certain patterns, understanding numerology. But in order for you to actually be happy and live to your full potential, you need to activate all the energies within that money triangle.
What are the all energies? What does it mean?
So each area of your life, let's say the money area of your life, it holds 6 energies. And the idea is most people will have 1 or 2 activated. So for example, you're using your voice, you've got one of the energies activated. What we're trying to aim to do, and this is why you need a professional to analyze your data, is you need to activate all of the 6 energies. And then when you align a career that has your voice, it has analytics, it has spiritual growth, because that's an important thing for you. When you activate them all, you can become the most successful person within your industry.
Amazing. And how do you understand your industry? Is there also specifics in numerology, how you can actually understand where I'm good at, either or banking or pharma, for example?
So when I work with my clients, the most important thing to me is what page of life they're on, right? So the same numbers can be responsible for quite a few different avenues, right? So the first question I need to know is, what are they passionate about?
Right.
What are they not happy about? And then together we can form, let's say, a plan, what activates all the energy so that the client is happy.
Brilliant. So it's actually working together with you. It's not that only numbers can tell what is the industry for you, but it's also you need to have a specialist who can actually read the numbers, give you the options, understand where your passion lies, and this is how you can understand where you will be good at, right?
Yes, exactly.
It's a collaborative work.
100%. So a lot of people come to me and say, oh, read my numbers, tell me what this is. But for me, my goal is to help people change their lives for the better, to remember who they are at the core, because we're all born and we know exactly who we are. Take kids, for example. They're so intuitive. They feel, they react, they don't analyze, they don't have belief systems that limits them. They don't have all this mess in their head. They just are. And numerology gives you the ability to remember this. But it's very important that the person is willing to do the work, because I can give you all the answers to your numbers, but unless you're willing to put in the work to be conscious and aware of what needs to be done, because that's the only way you can get to success and to happiness.
Because otherwise nothing's going to change. You just read the numbers in like a book and then that's it. And how do you feel that, for example, we have ChatGPT right now, and you can also upload all the data into ChatGPT and it can give you also reading in a way. How do you feel about it? Does it mean that AI is stepping on your toes and really replacing numerologist and becoming a numerologist, well, by itself?
So that's a very good point, because ChatGPT can really give you certain answers. But the reason I love the tool I use is because the analysis is so in-depth. And in order to be able to interact with a human being, yes, ChatGPT is probably going to get there, but still there's a lack of building rapport, a lack of really understanding what this client in front of you needs. And yes, it's all patterns and numbers and so on, but the way I see someone's matrix, the way I see someone's map is through a prism of life experience also, because there are different scenarios. So someone may be struggling with relationships, and they're going from one person to the other person and they just can't find love. But really it's not to do with these other people, it's to do with the lack of self-love. And maybe ChatGPT can find this connection, but it's only through the conversation and the life experience that you're able to get these very intricate and little details of someone's life.
Doesn't mean that numerology is somewhere at the border of psychology in a way.
Well, numerology as such is all statistics and numbers based, but I think what makes a reading or an analysis or something when someone comes for a reading different is the aspect of who's doing it, right? Because there are so many numerologists that will look at your birthday and just give you the top layer and say, you're a 2, that's it. But the tool I use is so in depth. So you see the big picture, so we can look at prognosis and what could be waiting for you. But also I can see the very little details of your relationships, of your personality, of potential depression, of
Oh,
potential...
wow.
It's all written in your numbers.
Doesn't mean that destiny is written, really. So you can't change it. Is it true?
I wouldn't say that destiny is written. I would say that you are born with an incredible set of tools, and every person has their own set of tools. You are choosing every single day what your destiny is. So when you learn about certain energies, you choose what you're going to do tomorrow. So for example, my energy is the 9. It's someone who will always question themselves, will always say, oh, I don't know enough, I need to learn more, I can't go on a podcast, are you crazy? What if I'm talking utter BS? But because I know my energy, I'm going to push myself to live in the positive of it.
Right.
To live in the positive means I come to this podcast, I talk about what I know, because what I know is enough for someone to understand that maybe this is a tool that could help change their life.
And when you mentioned the tool, what is that?
The tool is how to calculate something called a matrix.
Right.
Your birthday is used, and it's calculated in 5 top points. And within each, I need to draw this in order for you to understand.
Actually, it would be a good idea to bring like a billboard or something.
But if I could try and describe, it's a star, and then it has certain numbers and energies within it. And the combination of the energies will tell me everything I need to know about a person.
Amazing.
And really, I could answer any question about life through looking at your matrix.
Can you predict, based on the numbers, how long the person will be living?
So I would say you can't predict things like that, because numerology is not a tool to predict the future. It's not a fortune-telling tool.
Right.
It's something that gives you the ability to understand which year is supposed to be focused on which aspect of your life.
Right.
It's your choice. Do you live in the positive of it and you get all the fruits of life and you get your happiness, success and growth? Or do you live in the negative of it and then everything gets destroyed, you have problems, legal battles and so on? So the answer to how long someone lives, it is a choice of each person.
Right, and circumstances, I guess, that are around each person.
Because there's also another layer to numerology, which is certain events that happen in our lives. They're also not random. They are highlighting certain energies that are going into the negative, right? So let's say someone has had a car crash once every 9 years, and they can't understand why it's happening again and again and again. Usually car crashes are associated with a specific 7th energy, right? So what I do, someone comes and says, I've had 6 car crashes, what do I do? I would open their chart and I'd find where that energy in their matrix is. Usually it's either in their health, maybe in their money, and they're not activating the 7th energy through being spiritually aware and working on yourself and going inwards and moving and traveling and all these things that are associated with this energy.
Right.
So then I would ask them questions. When was the last time you traveled? When was the last time you looked inwards and meditated? And they would probably say, oh, I don't do that. So the answer to that would be fix this energy, go work on these day-to-day concepts, and you won't have an accident again.
Have you ever had a client who would come to you saying that, could you please do the numerology prediction for me, but I don't really believe in it?
I have these people all the time.
I can imagine.
So most of the people that come to me that are interested in numerology are people who have this analytical mind, and they think, oh, I'm just going to go because I'm interested, because your gut is saying this is something I should explore. It's what I'm born with. I have this ability to understand it. And then every person who's come as a skeptic has realized how logical numerology really is. It's not some kind of fortune-telling voodoo, I don't know, up in the air esoteric thing. It's very factual. So I sit down and show these people exactly how it works, and all of them are completely mind-blown because it's just simple.
I guess it's the main misconception really that people have about numerology, because people might think that it's a fortune, you're a fortune teller, basically. But apparently it's not. It's really down to the numbers that are showing the energy that you have, some strength or weaknesses that you have. So it's a science in a way. But I guess obviously many people, they would disagree. They would say, no, of course it's not a science. It's just like some blah from Instagram. But I guess you can contradict that.
Definitely. It's a very difficult topic to talk about because there are so many skeptics and so many people who want to see the worst in things. But if we take an example of statistics, right? Medical studies, they take 10,000 people and they do a statistic on sleep. Half of them sleep with a certain magnesium supplement, half of them don't. And all of a sudden we have the statistics in medicine and they say, I don't know, these supplements don't work, right? Same happens in numerology. Over decades of practitioners doing numerology, they see patterns repeat themselves over and over again. So there are tens of thousands of people with similar codes and similar energies that have proven that, yes, this is how it works. So it's a difficult topic to talk about.
And I guess there will be always groups of people who don't believe in that. They will be arguing and trying to prove their point, which is never the case, really.
It's humanity. People argue about vaccines, whether they're good or not. They'll argue about everything.
Absolutely.
It's human nature.
You mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, you mentioned that you can even look at the love perspective of the person based on their numbers. So, for example, if the person, there is the couple, let's say, and their numbers, they don't match at all, but they still want to be together. Mm-hmm. What do they do?
Well, the wonder is there's no such thing as incompatibility. Every couple that comes together as a mirror to each other. So you attract what you truly are, not just what you're pretending to be, but at the core of you. Let's say you attract a partner and the most important question that you should be asking is, what are the lessons that we're here to learn together? Why did this person come into my life? And that's what you need to focus on. Numerology will give you an understanding of your compatibility. So the reason you met, what you need to work through together. So it could be anything from childhood trauma. It could be learning to love yourself. It could be learning to be independent, because a lot of people have certain energies that show that they just become one and they don't learn how to be independent. What was I saying?
That was your actually compatibility, talking about compatibility. And it's a very interesting topic because some people also might argue that it doesn't really make sense. It's just the numbers, how we can even think about being compatible, being a couple when we just love each other. Yeah. But at the end of the day, they love each other, but they keep on arguing, keep on having difficult conversations. And at the end of the day, there might be something about this energy that they have within each and every number, right? So they're just not working through it in the right direction, I guess.
So I guess a reading when it comes to compatibility makes you understand certain aspects about your partner, what they value, what is important to them. And usually conflicts rise on these matters, right? And there's a whole area which is more for couples that have been together for a long time. I don't disclose any negativity to, let's say, someone who's just gotten married and they have no issues. I'm not going to go and tell them, right, these are the issues that are coming. Obviously, I can see this. But when you understand your compatibility, when you understand what your partner needs from you and what you are there to learn together, all of a sudden, your relationship isn't about arguing. It's about coming together and learning these things together and growing together. Exactly.
And it doesn't mean that numbers can even predict global things. For example, I don't know, economical crisis, or that some country will be having some political crisis. Doesn't mean that numbers can do that as well.
So in very short, yes. What we need to understand about prognosis, which is what you're talking about, as I mentioned, it depends on the choice of the person, right? So the person or the country can live in the positive or the negative. Every country has its own matrix, right? When it comes to global events, most governments, which would be the face of the events that would be happening, most governments aren't living in the positive, right? They're not prioritizing their people, they're not doing the correct things, let's say.
It's always about war.
Exactly. So what can be predicted is, depending on the year the country's going through, we would most likely look at the negative events. So there are energies that are associated more with fires and water and natural disasters. There are energies associated with war, with political upheave and so on. So you can almost see what's about to happen. The question is, which way is it going to go? What are the new laws that countries are going to implement? How are they going to behave? Are they going to prioritize their people? And so on.
It's interesting because you're talking about global crisis, global events, and numerology can actually point out what's going to happen potentially in the right circumstances. But also astrology can do that, no? Because I can see loads of astrologists on Instagram, YouTube, they're talking about global events, saying that there will be earthquake in the upcoming year, or there will be some forest problems with forest fire, all sorts of things. Doesn't mean that they are correlated in a way.
So astrology and numerology have quite a lot in common. The main major difference between the two, which is something I find, is numerology gives you, let's say, a plan, right? It tells you exactly who you are, where your potential is, why you've come to this world, but it also gives you step by step what you need to do in order to take life into your own hands. Instruction, exactly. Whereas my personal experience with astrology is it tells you which star was when you were born, and this is why you are a certain way. But it doesn't necessarily give you the power into your hands. This is what I love most about it, is after a consultation, I give my clients the power over their own lives. They don't need to rely on me, on some therapist, on anyone, because they have the answers, and it's their choice every day what they do.
And it's within themselves, really.
Exactly.
Because we're saying it's a tool, sets of tool that you've been born with, right? And you can just apply it every day when you know how to apply it.
Exactly.
I have a question. So, for example, when the person comes to you and starts blaming numerology, saying that, oh, it didn't work for me, oh, you've given me all the readings, but still it's not the right direction for me, does it probably mean that the person is avoiding accountability for his or her own actions and starts blaming numerology?
Definitely. People love to blame everything but themselves. It's just, I guess, a learned behavior. So I would consult pretty much anyone apart from people that I can see are not ready. Because
how do you identify it?
A very quick conversation with a person gives me a lot of answers that I need. And point is, numerology can give you all the answers, but you need to do the work. It's not some kind of magic wand that I'll wave and all of a sudden you've gone and made $1 million. You've got to put the work in, and you've got to be open to take responsibility.
And you're saying that you have to be responsible for your actions. You have to own really what you're doing. Does it really mean that sometimes numerology can open up some dark sides of the person, and the person might be like, oh no, this is not me. This is definitely not what's going to happen to me. So does it mean that numerology can also open up some doors inside you that you're not happy to work on, right?
Absolutely. Numerology shows you the whole thing. I think here the question is, who do you go to for these analysis, these readings? I think that is a very important part of it, because some people go to tarot people or to breathwork workshop. And if you get a practitioner that is not logical, you'll find that you're going to face a lot of issues, and maybe mental issues as well after.
Wow.
Because if someone comes to a numerological consultation and they're told, oh, that's it, next year you're going to lose your money, you don't do that. It's all about helping people and guiding people from dark to light, right? If someone is in a good space, why disclose all these bad things? You're there working with a person to move them towards light, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, it definitely makes sense. And you mentioned that it's really hard to find a good specialist, right? So it could be either tarot reading or numerology. How do you actually identify that the person is qualified enough so that you can trust yourself to the person?
That is a very hard question to answer. I guess people look at diplomas and where they studied and maybe examples of their past work, or you look at their social media, what do they talk about? A numerologist should never be pro a certain opinion. Numerology is very flowy, it's very flexible. It doesn't go against nature, it doesn't go against religion, it doesn't go against anything. It's there to highlight your strengths and your wonderful talents and who you are as a person. So if you see anyone that's a bit too fanatical, or that they have certain parameters that they don't budge on, I would say probably avoid them.
Go away as you see that.
Exactly.
Absolutely agree with you, because there are so many people on Instagram that you can see they're talking about numerology, astrology, tarot reading, and you're like, oh no, this is definitely not for me. It scares you rather than actually makes you feel that, oh, this is something that I would like to explore. And there are so many people like that on Instagram and all social media.
Definitely.
As a numerologist, why do you think the popularity of this, let's call it science, why the popularity is growing that much these days?
So this is a very deep, long question to answer.
Right.
But if I could give you the very short version, as we've mentioned, every number has a certain energy. And people who were born from the 2000s, so not in 1990 something, but in the 2000s, there's become a big shift of energy, because going from ones and nines, and they're very structural and all this, into twos that, as we mentioned, like you, they feel people, they're ready to wake up. So we're living in an era where people are starting to realize that we have to look inwards, we have to remember who we are. It's all about feeling, it's all about understanding. And people who are not ready to go on that kind of spiritual journey to understand themselves, they're going to struggle. And this is the time where people are trying to find a way to understand. And as numerology, or whichever tool that a person chooses to use, is not as developed in this country, let's say, people are starting to get angry. And this anger is channeled at others, at themselves, but really it's just a little bell that you need to get to know yourself.
I've never thought about it, because even when we're talking about different generations, there is Alpha, Generation X, and you can clearly see that people who were born in 1990 something, they're completely different to the people that were born after 2000. That's so crazy. So I guess it's also down to those numbers as
100%.
well.
100%. And the reason you'll see a massive shift in how people raise children now, because the majority of people who are becoming parents now would have been born in a year that has a lot of nines, and 9 is about being spiritually aware, right? It's about understanding that things aren't quite working how they should be, right? So you're seeing this shift in looking at children and realizing you have an impact on them, and you have to feel them, and you've got to give them X, Y, and Z for them to become proper happy human beings. And as the years shift, and as the next decade opens up and they become parents, there'll be a completely different approach. My favorite example of numbers is all those people born in 1970s. The seventh energy is a very strong warrior energy, right? So when these people of the 70s were born, and then it got to the 80s, 90s, where they became adults, the things that were going on, let's say in Russia, they would either be alcoholics, people at war. That's the two negative sides of the seventh energy. In the positive, they would be very spiritually active and very in tune with themselves, but they didn't live in a time where this information was something that they could read about, to learn about. So this whole period of these awful events happened just purely because of the energy.
Wow, this is so powerful what you were saying right now. I think this is completely a mind shift, to be honest with you, because you never really think about numerology from this perspective. You're more think about it like, oh, love, compatibility, maybe some relationship, maybe work, maybe money, energy. But on this global scale, you would never think, but this is so true. This is how I feel. This is completely how I feel. I think people are changing. There are people who were born during this period of time, but they fit rather now rather than when they were born. And this is so crazy.
Exactly. And you talk about compatibility. There's a whole other area called business compatibility, which is, it's something that I feel like every business owner should be aware of, because when you hire people, you can't just hire people based on their CV. Well, you can if you want to potentially get it wrong. But if you genuinely want to have a successful business, which obviously everyone has their opinion of what that would be, but in my opinion, a successful business is where you're growing as a business, but also all your employees are happy.
Right,
and they're doing
absolutely right.
the job that fits their energies, right? So when you put a team together, the first thing you need to be looking at is, what is this person born with? What are their talents? Because if they're going to do what their talents are and what they're born with, they're going to be not only incredibly happy, they're going to be successful, and as a team, you're going to work together. And what happens is a lot of companies misplace their employees, and they'll put a leader in a position that needs to be working with other people. They'll put a creative in an analytical position, and it's like, it does not work unless everything is perfectly set up.
That's incredible. So I guess the advice here, if you are setting up the business and you have a business partner, for example, you really have to sit down together and really understand your numbers, your strength, what you're good at, what you're not so good at, and really work from that. And this is how you can flourish, and this is how you can develop your business. And at the same time, if you have a team, you can always sit down with your team and understand where to place who.
Exactly.
Because everyone is different.
Exactly. And what approach to use with each individual, because everyone is different.
100% definitely. I'm a team manager myself, and I completely understand that I can talk to one person in this manner, or with a different person I have to talk with use in a different manner, because everyone is different. And I guess it's also down to the numbers that they've been born with. Obviously, their character, where they've been brought up, and all sorts of things, they also matter, but we shouldn't be forgetting about the numbers, right?
100%. And of course, you can feel everyone. So
Yes.
you're a great manager.
Thank you. I do. I was thinking this is actually more like intuition in a way, but you're explaining it.
Because a 2 is intuition. You're
Right.
born as an intuitive.
Right.
So not everyone can feel how you feel.
That's actually true, because when I'm talking to my team, for example, I can really sense, even through the camera, if the person's been struggling today, for example, or she had a very good day and they're happy, but they're just not really disclosing it. So I do feel people even through the camera. This is so crazy. That's incredible.
It's your superpower.
Woo. One more last question that I wanted to ask you today. You said that obviously with the numbers we can not understand, but we can identify the milestones for the company, for the country, for the family, all sorts of organizations in a way, let's put it that way. If we talk about the upcoming year, so it is 2026, what is the energy of this year based on the numbers?
So 2026 is a very interesting year because it's the year of the 1. We've just gone through a very difficult year, which is the last year of the cycle. The cycle is from 1 to 9.
Right.
So we've gone through the year of the 9, which I'm sure you've heard all over the internet.
A difficult one.
So the 9 releases everything that no longer serves you, that you don't need in your life, and sometimes it's taken from you if you're not willingly letting it go. But who is conscious and who understands, they would do it themselves, let's say in a less painful manner. And the year of the 2026 is a new beginning, right? So this is the year where it's important to start new projects. You're planting those seeds for the next 9 years. So every single year, what you do matters. And the pinnacle is the last year. That's where all your fruits come out, right? But you're planting your seeds, you're starting new projects, you're, depending on whether you're a man or a woman, it could be a year where you start a family. It's something about the beginning of
something new.
Exactly. The numerology tool I use is a little bit in more depth than just the simple 1 to 9 numbers. So what else I can add is in this year that's coming, make sure you say yes to every single opportunity that comes your way, because the year that we're about to experience will almost navigate you if you trust. So the most important thing to learn is to trust whatever you believe in, the universe, God, yourself, but you've got to trust.
So go with the flow, trust, say yes to the opportunities that you have. Even sometimes they might look, oh my God, what that?
Exactly.
It's something completely outrageous and I have never thought about it. Still say yes. Think about it and say yes, because it might be something big in the cycle of 1 to 9 years, right? Yeah. And when you're saying the cycle from 1 to 9 years, doesn't mean that, well, first year, it is the beginning of everything. So the second year, it will be something even better and bigger. So it's like you're growing something and it's up to the 9, or every year is different.
So every year carries a different energy.
Right.
So if the 1 is about planting seeds, 2 would be about partnering up. So for example, let's say you've planted a seed, you've come up with an idea of a new business. In the second cycle, you'd be looking for a business partner. You'd be looking how to create a partnership in which you can flourish this idea you've had, right? In the year of the 3, for example, it depends what your current life status is, but the year of the 3 is when a lot of people get pregnant. It's about conception, right? It's about love. It's about marriage. It's about all these wonderful feminine energies, right? And then you go through each energy and it has a specific thing you need to focus on. So it's all great knowing that 2026 is the year of the 1, but every human has their own
number as well. Yeah.
They're on their own pathway, right? So for example, even though right now we're in the year of the 9, I'm living my 8th cycle.
Wow.
And yes, next year will be the year of the 1, but I'll be living in my 9th cycle. So we need to always add up the whole picture. This is how numerology works. It's 11 layers.
Wow.
And then when you're able to analyze all this data, that's when you can really see the 3D effect of someone's life.
Amazing. Thank you, Jess. Thank you so much for your time. And I will definitely leave your Instagram profile in our video because Jess, she's got amazing Instagram. She's got so much information over there. Please go there. Give her likes, subscribe, follow her. She's amazing, brilliant. A lot of great information there. Thank you, Jess. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Cheers.